What's up? Welcome to Purpose Living, where we will be taking a dive into what it means to live on purpose. I am your host, Christina Estrada, founder of Purpose Culture. Grab your favorite cocktail, beer, a cup of coffee, or tea, and come sit with me each month as we listen to inspiring guests tell stories of how they have made massive strides in living out their purpose. Welcome to Living Purpose Podcast. I am so excited yet again to be here for kind of like a little part two or an extension of our conversation with a couple of our friends at Purpose Culture that are counselors at schools. And I am really excited for this next guest. But before we start, as usual, we're going to ground ourselves. So let's go ahead and get ourselves comfortable in our seat. And unlike all the other times that we have done this, I'd like to invite you just to look around and to look around your surroundings, notice where you're at, maybe even just speak out a little gratitude. It might be cold in your home or warm in your home, however you're feeling in your space, and just speak out gratitude for the space that you're in. And then once you feel like lots of gratitude within your heart for the space and you feel comfortable, you can lower your gaze or you can close your eyes and just begin to breathe. And again, just another layer of gratitude for your breath, and just even speaking that out within your heart space. This life-giving force that we've been given that sustains us, that allows all of the different parts of our body to function and to work. And as you notice the breaths in and out, maybe deepen the inhales in and out a little bit more. Add a little bit more breath into your body. Release a little bit more breath out of your body. Today, as we come to this space again of learning, of opening up our senses and our eyes and our ears to the things that we're going to hear, I wanted to begin with that deep sense of gratitude, with understanding that our surroundings, the peace that we experience is not maybe what's experienced in other parts of the world. The comfort that we have is not something that is experienced everywhere within this world. That there are spaces that don't feel like that. And that's not out of a space of looking at what we benefit from as superiority, but an acknowledgement that we all have different experiences within life. And to be grateful for the experiences that we've been given, grateful for what we have. So with that, maybe recognizing one thing, maybe the first thing that pops to your mind that you're grateful for. Could be a relationship, could be your job, could be your life, your health. What is the one thing that you're grateful for? And imagine that's in the palm of your hand. And as you notice that thing that you are grateful for, that person, whatever it may be, maybe just whisper that out. Whisper out all the reasons that you're grateful. As you lay that thing in the palm of your hand, just speak those gratitudes out. Acknowledging the gratitude that you have. And today, as we settle into the space of more learning, I'm going to read this little poem called More. It says, "Please don't stop dreaming. Please don't stop pushing up ceilings, because that's exactly who dreamers are and what we are made to do. People who don't believe, they will tell us that we are crazy, but we're not. We are just people who are used to breathing in stars and knowing we were made for more." Today, as we open our ears and listen to the needs that maybe the people around us, the youth, teachers, students, parents need, can I invite us just to put an extra layer of compassion and love around our ears and our hearts? Recognizing that with some of the ideas that we're going to talk about is really pushing up ceilings. It's dreaming. It's looking at how we can be solutions. Take a nice big breath into all that we just spoke out, the gratitude that we spoke over this time, the breath that we utilized, the space that we've been given. And take one more final breath in. Maybe bring your hand to your heart as we seal in this time together. And then when you're ready, you can blink your eyes open. Nothing like starting with gratitude.
Always the best.
I am so excited to introduce to you yet again another friend of mine that I haven't gotten to sit down with a lot, but again, a kindred spirit. We kind of connected through yoga, and there's always been this connection that we've had. And when I told her about what I was doing and she told me about what she was doing and how she was going to be going back to the school campus, it really made me think, like, I want to hear what she has to say. It is with my great pleasure that I introduce to you Lori Boyer. So glad that you're here with us and sitting on my couch with me. This is like a
Yay.
privilege. Yeah.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yay. All right. So sorry I butchered your name 3 times and nobody knows that until I just said that right now. So we'll probably axe that too. So, but tell me a little bit about you. Tell me about your life. Tell me all that we would need to know about who you are, Lori.
Well, so I am a wife and a mother. I have 2 teenagers at home, which I cannot even believe they're already teenagers. So our daughter is 16 and our son is 13. In a month will be 14. And I live in the city I grew up in. I get to work in the schools in the city that I live in. I married my high school sweetheart, which is really crazy, I think.
How long have you guys been married?
We've been married for 20 years.
Wow.
Yes. So
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That is, yeah. I always tell everybody, you get over the 20, there might be one big bump, but then it's like kind of like it gets good. It gets good.
Yeah. It just flew by.
Yeah,
I feel like
right?
I woke up and I thought, oh my gosh, I have
I
teenagers
know.
and I've been married for 20 years. Who is this person?
I know.
Yes. I am also a Latina. My background is my mom is Mexican and my dad is Cuban. I hold that like very close to me. I'm the oldest in my family, so I have younger siblings. So I have been, I think just that older sibling role.
Yeah.
And I have step siblings too that are like my own siblings, and so there's a lot of us. There's a
Yeah.
lot of us when we get together.
so
Everyone,
fun.
has a significant other. Everyone has
Kids.
kids.
Oh,
so
man. That must
we're
be so.
big.
Do they all live local?
We do all live local.
Oh, my gosh. You're
Yes.
so lucky. That's so awesome.
Yes, I just made a reservation for brunch, for like a holiday brunch, and we're 11 adults and 4 children, and that's only part of my side.
Yeah.
So I come from a blended family.
Yeah.
So that's only one half
One
of the side.
Part of the blend.
One part of the blend, yes. Yes. But, yeah.
And then tell me a little bit about your career. Like, I know you stepped away for a little bit.
I did.
Shifted a little bit.
I have been a school counselor in the town that I live in. I was lucky enough to get hired right out of my master's program in 2005. And so I spent a long time, 17 years really, just being a school counselor at that same middle school. And when we say school counselor, most people don't think middle school, they think high school right away. And when I was hired there in 2005, I was the only counselor for the entire school. We were about, I would say, like 800 students. It's grades 6, 7, and 8. And there have been so many changes and growth between 2005 and now, or even, from 2 years ago when I stepped away. Our department grew. It was really nice. With growth, also, there's shifts. We had different administration come in and just different things get, allocated different ways, right? And so responsibilities and things shifted quite a bit. And I came to a point where my kids were going to start to transition. My daughter was transitioning from middle school to high school, and my son was transitioning from elementary to middle school. And I had always wanted the opportunity to stay home with them, and I never did because ultimately in 2005, I got my dream job right out of school.
Right.
So I never wanted to step away from that. And I really didn't want to step away, but I also had another want of just being home with them and experiencing them. I think with those transitions, I realized time is limited. I only get so many more first days of schools or summers,
Yeah. No, I hear you. Because, even just looking back at pictures recently, I'm like, how did this happen? It goes by so fast. And I know we all heard that, right? When we started having kids. It's going to go by so fast. It's going to go by so fast. It does.
It does. Well, and I feel like as a parent, you're in elementary school forever.
Yeah. And you're
always
so
in
entrenched in that. Yes. It's like your existence.
Yes. And then once they hit middle school, it really flies by. So I had the opportunity. It worked out for our family for me to just step away and be home with them. And
did the pandemic kind of was that part of?
I would say it was a little bit part of it because I got to work from home. Right. I mean, as everyone did, and the kids were doing school at home. And we actually grew a lot closer during that time. And so thinking about going back, and as I went back to work and the kids stayed home for a little bit because we were on campus before students came for a while, it was hard for them, I think. And I think we all had a better appreciation of what our days look like when we're not home.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it made me really think time is limited. I haven't had that time with them. I know those transition times can be really, really important. I've seen it. Being middle school, I get both, right? I get the elementary into middle, how important that transition is, and then sending them off to high school. And so it just worked out that both were transitioning at the same time. And I was home, and it was amazing to be able to just be home with them. I was able to do some personal goals of mine too. So I went through a yoga certification and started teaching here and there and found my yoga teacher voice and just found other passions that I had never taken the time to do yet because I thought, well, no, I'm too busy, right? I'm too busy being a counselor at work. I'm too busy being a mom at home and a wife and a sister and a daughter and all the other things. And so it gave me the time to really tap back into myself.
That's so important.
Also,
especially being able to do that during that time, because I feel like there'll be a time where your kids will be gone and you'll remember what you tapped into. And I think it'll be something that you've already exercised.
Yeah. So it was a great time. Yeah. And then within my district, you can take a 2-year leave. And then it was time to decide, was I going to fully give up my position or did I want to go back? And when I really sat and thought about it, I didn't feel like I was done yet, right? I definitely missed my students, right? I would always see my other kids. and just being on a school campus and teachers and friends and the camaraderie you get through that. And just the silly events we get to do, right? Like dressing up for Halloween and seeing what all the kids come as. It's just a whole different feel. And unless you work in the schools, you don't know that necessarily. And just, the excitement of countdown to Thanksgiving break and all the things. Yeah. I definitely missed it. And so I returned and, started back and it's been going well. I mean, there's good days. There's days that I think, oh my gosh, why did I choose this? But
I'm sure.
just like
I
with
was just going to
everything.
say, like,
Yes.
I'm sure that most of the listeners are going to feel exactly the same way. Most of them, not all
Yes.
of them, but junior high is a rough, it's a rough time.
Yeah.
We were talking about it. I was talking about with April in the other episode where we were talking about like, this is a rough time. Like, this is not a time where she was like, junior high. Oh, heck no. I did not even want to do that. So I was like, I think it takes a special type of person and to deal with junior hires. And I've never been so grateful for junior high counselors and junior high teachers and principals having junior high kids. You know, it really makes you like appreciate them in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're like, I don't want to be doing that.
And initially when I started, I didn't think middle school counselor, right? And then I would say within my first year, I was like, oh no, this is where I belong.
Yeah.
And people would ask all the time, like, oh, are you going to move to the high school? I'm like,
No.
nope, I like this age.
Yeah.
And then they look at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Yeah, junior high is hard. It's like a transitional period. It is. Middle kind
and
of like.
They come in as really children, right?
And babies.
Then they're leaving still children.
Right.
But in more adult-like bodies
Yeah.
with other ideas, but still needing a lot.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Still needing a lot of support. Yeah. So what are some like different ways that you have found that you're finding like connection with kids? Like let's get into like the kind of grit of what your job is and how you're finding like ways to help to connect with students.
Yeah, I love to be just out on campus and be a familiar face to students. I mean, that's really the first step, I think, because, you know, all of us will see something, and the more we see it, the more familiar we become with it, the less we are like worried about it
or resistant
to it. So I love to be on campus and walk through and say good morning to kids. And it strikes me, there's so many kids that as I walk through in the morning and I just say good morning and they look at me surprised. And I wonder, has anyone said good morning to them yet? Right? And maybe they have, and maybe they're just surprised because they're like, I don't know you.
Yeah.
But I feel like it gives them an opportunity to be like, oh, you can say good morning to people you don't know.
Yeah.
You can be nice to them,
Yes.
even if you don't know them, right?
Yes.
And some will just look at me, and some will return the good morning. It just depends. But I think just that, right? Like walking through as with a positive, smile on your face and just with a positive attitude, it can be contagious, and kids can feel like, oh, okay,
and seen.
It's okay.
Yeah, seen. I think that's why I just immediately thought of you walking through campus, and that just came to mind. Just that kids are. I mean, and that we talked about this also is just not knowing like what that child has experienced that morning, what they have, just with so many unknowns of what most of them deal with on a regular basis.
Yeah,
that could be like the first experience of them being on campus is seeing you could really elicit for them just a safety.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
Really cool. Yeah.
So really that, and I think more just being authentic, right? Just showing them who I am and being open and just meeting them kind of where they are and being able to be silly or give answer questions that they have, right? Because nobody wants it to be one-sided. They want to know that you're like a real person too.
Right.
And that you also, do all the same things that they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So really just
you're human too, right?
Yeah, just being
that you don't
authentic.
live on campus in your
right
office.
In my office.
That you actually do have a life outside. So what are like some of the bigger challenges, especially with junior high? What are you seeing that are like the big challenges that youth are facing today?
I feel like, there's so many, right? So we think of like big challenges such as like body image issues, substance abuse, depression, anxiety. So, but I feel like all of those like big challenges really, for me, come back down to just unrealistic expectations. So we really live, I feel like, in a culture of like, do it all, be it all, have it all, make it look easy. It's all great. It's all wonderful. And you should have it all together all the time. And sometimes those expectations can be like self-imposed, right? So maybe our teens are thinking, but I should be able to do this, right? Or I can't tell anyone that I'm struggling with this. They could just be like societal too. They can be imposed by our parents, whether they've actually said it or just the kid feels it. Like, I feel like I have to just take care of all my things because they have too much going on. I can't bother them with that. So I feel like everything really comes down to just holding these unrealistic expectations of just having to do it all, be it all, and
like the unattainable.
the unattainable, right? Because we see that. We see that on social media. We see it just kind of all over. And whether we're all putting our best foot forward, right? But as a middle school teen, they don't necessarily see that that's just the highlight reel, right? That not everyone's day looks like that every day.
Right.
And so I think those unrealistic expectations that whether we put on ourselves or however they get in our mind can pull us down this rabbit hole that then lead to those bigger issues of either body image or just self-acceptance, right? Which can lead to then depression, anxiety, substance abuse, just feeling not enough.
Yeah. Like, isn't it funny how we always go to those things, that those first are the things that we talk about, and we don't talk about, like, could this be stemming from something so much bigger and more in our face than we actually realize, that these things are just the kind of the shrapnel kind of the bigger issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, what ways do you feel like you are seeing that manifest itself out, like in kids? Like, how are you seeing that? Like, is it like in relationships with others? Is it in like how they're doing in school? Like, what is the result of that? So if they're feeling like, you know, that there's like this bigger issue and, you know, depression and all these other things, what does that look like?
I feel like it can be academic, you know, issues or just not reaching academic potential, really the best way to say it. But I feel like that it's just held within and it can come out in just emotional irregulation, right? So they can't regulate their emotions. So something little we think happens in class and it becomes a huge meltdown. But that's because they've been holding so much and that was the one thing that just set them over the edge. So it could be either through anger, through it's just pure sadness and crying hysterically. Sometimes just escaping the situation and throwing their head in the sand and thinking it's going to go away, right? Without, and that could be, you know, an academic concern, or it could be even just an issue with friends, right?
I was thinking like relationship
how
things,
they relate towards each other and what they expect a friend to do for them, right? And how they expect to be a friend back.
So on that same, like, in that same vein, like, what are like needs that you're seeing, like, with youth?
Yeah, that's such a hard question, I feel like, because there's so many big needs, but I think the biggest need is just for our youth to feel like we're all on the same page, right? We're all on their team, whether it's their teachers, their counselors, their principals, their parents, that we're all there ready to support them, and that they feel that support to be whoever they want to be, right? That there's no specific thing that you have to be, but that you have that support and that freedom to choose, right? And to fail at something, right? And
Yeah,
we
that's
all
not
are afraid of failure.
Yeah, that's not something that we encourage is failure.
No. And of
Which
course,
is part of that's part of the growth process.
it is. Yeah. And failure looks different to everyone, right? That doesn't necessarily mean receiving an F in a class. Failure can mean so many things, whether it's you didn't make the team, right, that you wanted to make, or you didn't make it on to be ASB president,
right,
or that friendship didn't work out, and so a failure can look like so many different things. Even getting an 80% on a test or in a class can seem like a failure to some students, right? And so
there's those like expectations.
Yes,
right there. Yeah.
yes, and it's
So that shows up. Yeah.
and it's so hard to balance that because nobody wants to be like, it's okay to fail,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
But then when we do fail, we also don't want to be like, you failed, now you're worth nothing, right?
Right.
What do we say? We say like, okay, so what did you learn? Like failure's a part of life. As we know as adults, it is.
Yeah.
And when we do fail, whatever that is in our mind, because it's our own expectation, right? That we decide we failed. And so then how do you work through that?
Yeah.
What do you learn? How do you move forward? How do you accept it? Because you can't change it.
Right. Right.
And so I feel like just being able to accept things for what they are, understand, process, and move forward is something that our kids are lacking right now.
Yeah. I heard somebody tell me this. It was in a yoga training. It's kind of funny. But she's like, stop shoulding yourself. Like constantly saying, well, I should have. It's like, well, how about like, what can I do?
Yes.
Like, how can we shift the language? Which...
And just
hard.
reframe it.
And reframe
right?
it, yeah.
And say, okay, that did not work out.
Right.
But I learned this.
Yeah.
Or, just to give that reframe, and putting more of a positive in our head can really help us manage through things that didn't work out. And there's going to be so many more things that don't work out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
In life coming. And so I think of, my middle school kids, and it's learning how to manage that and to understand, like, it's okay. You're still going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay. It doesn't feel okay right now. And it probably shouldn't feel okay right now. And that's okay. But what are we going to do to then move forward, process, understand, and find your way then?
Yeah. So I'm really interested to know, like, how did yoga play, like, a part in maybe how that shift has happened when you left school and left for those 2 years? Was there a shift that yoga gave you or allowed you something different to bring back to the school campus?
I think it did. And I think it started with when I was still at work, because I would go to a Sunday morning yoga class, and I found that was like my release. A lot of the times emotionally, like, I would just cry through the whole class. Tears would just come
classes.
down. Yeah. And
Yeah.
half of the time I was like, I didn't even know I needed to cry. I didn't know I was holding this. Yeah. So I think it gave me a lot more self-awareness in what I was holding and how I was showing up. And so then taking that time off, that's why I wanted to become yoga certified, is because it played such a big role in how I was showing up to be myself, and to work for the kids. And I would always tell my husband, like, you don't understand, like, every night I have to empty because I go to work and I feel with everybody else's emotions. And, that's just my personality as a counselor. I think, I just take in everybody else's emotions. And so unless I went to work empty, I was going to overflow. Right. And I couldn't hold that space for them that they needed me to hold. Yeah. So yoga really helped me do that. And so taking that time off and going through a yoga training, and it was a yoga training meant for educators as well. So I really had the idea
that component to
and
it.
the mindset of, like, really wanting to bring back
Yeah.
what I've learned and implement it in schools. Now, we'll see. You know, sometimes that's a little harder than than just bringing it back. But in session, you know, we can do mindfulness and do certain things that was part of that yoga training. And so social emotional learning was part of it as well, because it was for educators. And that was something I was super passionate about in the last 5 years before I took my time off, even before the pandemic. And then after pandemic, it was like, oh, everybody's talking about SEL now. I was like, yay, everybody get on the train. So, because social emotional learning is just so important. Like we go back to the should, we think our kids should know how to do this. Well, they should know how to do this. And I would always say, like, how should they know if nobody taught them?
Right. Exactly.
Like, we teach them to do everything. We teach them to walk. We teach them how to eat with a fork. Like, we need to teach them.
Right.
They don't come to us knowing this.
Yeah.
And even if it's something that's taught at home, it's different for everyone. So,
Yeah. How has your I'm just always interested in this because I love design, and when you showed me your space, what made you? Because I don't know what your space looked like before before you left, but did anything shift in the 2 years that you took off? I'm really interested in this 2 years because I really feel like that probably was, even though you were already, that was such a part of you.
Yes.
It like grew deeper roots within you, which then allowed you to give back in a different way. And I'm just interested of like how did those roots maybe change the way you came back?
Yeah, it really did change how I thought I wanted my space to look for students, and my job changed a little bit. Right, I'm doing more school-based therapy now, and before I was school counselor. That, you know, there was a lot of drop-in time. I would meet with parents. It was less scheduled, I guess. And now my day is much more scheduled because I have specific students I need to see for a certain amount of time every week and things like that. So kind of the shift in a little bit in my job helped me with the space I wanted to create too. And so, yeah, my space, I just wanted it to be welcoming and open and bright for students, comfortable. So I have comfortable seating. I have a sofa. I have 2 chairs. I have a rug. Sometimes the kids sit on the floor and play with the rug, and just a little table and a wall that has like succulents on it. So just more earthy feel. Yeah.
I love that. I was like imagining, could you imagine, I'm just like thinking about this. Could you imagine classrooms looking like that? Like, first of all, my daughter, we have this beautiful desk for her, but she never sits at it. So I know that's not healthy for you to like sit on the floor all the time, but I'm like, what if there was this rotating, like what if classrooms were created for like not sitting forward at a desk, but were created for that comfort level.
Like collaboration.
Like collaborate, exactly. And like, could you imagine what that would lend to? I just would be so curious just to see like what a class like that would be like for
and almost like college level kind of classes, because they have more flexible seating. I think more classrooms now do have flex seating. And when we returned from pandemic, one of the things I wanted for our school was a wellness room, because we were making these different like virtual wellness rooms that kids could pop into that had either like videos or just mindfulness meditations and a variety of different things. And I wanted a physical room on our campus to do that. And that was my ask when we came back. And my principal was like, sure, figure out what you want. And I was really excited to be like, okay, let's do this. And then we were able to talk to the other middle school and then the high school. And so all 3 of us, then we ordered things for all 3 campuses. And so we have a wellness room. So since then, now each elementary school has a wellness room as well.
Wow.
So the wellness room very much is like an extension of my office. There are rugs, there's flex seating, there's kinetic sand, there's puzzles, there's whiteboards, there's a variety of things that kind of get rotated in and out. We have a Lego wall in one of them, in our middle school one, and the kids come and play.
Yeah,
You know,
that's so cool.
just a space that allows for you to just play, right? I think our kids are lacking that a lot too, right? They don't just
100%. My
play.
daughter just asked me the other day, she's like, when did you stop playing with Barbies? I'm like, I think I was like 14. And she's like, really? She's like, I want to play with them sometimes, but then I'm like, I don't know if I should. I'm like, you absolutely should. Absolutely. It's like going back to expectations. What we're expected to do at certain times in our life. And it's like, you know, that's,
Play is good. So in
break through those
I bought
expectations.
this. You asked about like connecting with students. So one, I'm going to do shout out to Five Below. One of my favorite stores is Five Below. They have the best things that just I can throw in my office and play with. And I found this little basketball game where it has a little ball. You click the little thing, and it has two sides, and you can play against each other. And I thought, I'm just going to buy this. Like, I have some students that I think would like this that can't just, like, they're not going to sit and just talk to me, right? Like, we have to do something else, particularly our boys.
I was just going to say, probably boys.
Yes, because it's less intimidating, right? To answer a question while you're playing.
Also, boys are not meant to sit forward and look you in the eye. I learned this when, you know, I was a mom, shoulder to shoulder, even with my husband, like shoulder to shoulder, like connection and intimacy is far more, it goes far further than just sitting down and looking face to face. And I think we have to remember that we're all different, but particularly, boys and girls they were different. Yeah.
And so some students that I thought they would not want to play this game. It was just like on the table, and so many came in and said, "Ooh, what's this? Can we play?" or like just kind of like would like touch it and go, "Oh, do you want? Will you play with me? I'll show you how we play." And then just playing, playing.
Yeah, a lot happens.
Yes,
with play therapy.
A lot.
And art therapy, all of that. There's a lot that happens.
Smiles, laughs that I had not seen before or gotten before.
That's so sweet.
So yeah, just play.
Yeah, I love that. All right, so now we're going to get into some more specific questions, but specifically, like, if you could tell teachers anything that could help, how they could help better support youth, what would you share with some teachers?
Well, I would first tell teachers that it is a hard job. So it's okay that it feels hard, right? So validate that first, you know, and just give yourself kudos. The moment we don't always feel like we're reaching all our students. And I have found that over time, kids come back and they tell you the impact you had on them, and we don't see it in the moment. So I want teachers to know that, right? The kids aren't always going to tell you what impact you have on them. Just keep doing it, and it will one day resonate with them. But ultimately, just really lead with your heart, right? We're all teaching subjects, right? Okay, math, science, biology, whatever it is you're teaching. But see beyond that. See that you're teaching these kids how to function in a world, right? How to be a part of a group, how to wait their turn, how to appropriately ask a question, how to take care of their own bodies and what they need. And so see that first, right? And just see that is someone's heart that's in your classroom. And lead with your heart. And if you do that, the kids will see that, right? It makes a difference.
Yeah.
And they will learn better from someone that they've seen their heart and that you're able to be vulnerable with than someone who's just always on them about all these things.
Yeah. Academics.
Academics,
Yeah.
yes. Because, yes, the academics absolutely matter. I think they matter completely, 100%. But the academics don't come unless that relationship is there first.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
and for
especially at
some,
that age, I feel like a lot of them are like, you have to win them.
mm-hmm.
I think elementary is a little bit easier. It's a little bit easier to win them. I think there's a part when they become, they're a little bit more skeptical of the world around them. They have a little bit, and I think we don't give them credit for that.
Mm-hmm.
I think they know a lot more than we think they know.
Yes,
They've been
because
watching.
they're watching. They're always watching.
Yeah.
And so just, as a teacher, be authentically you, lead with your heart, and just try to create that safe environment for them in your classroom.
Yeah.
And then don't beat yourself up on those tough days, right? Sometimes it takes all year to connect with a particular student, and that's okay. Just keep doing
Yeah,
it.
and it's like you never know the seeds that have been planted.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that's the job is not to I even think this as a parent. The job is to plant the seeds and then water the seeds. It's not for them to grow to full, to their fullness, especially in the years that they're with us or the years that they're in the class. It is to get them to a point where they're growing.
Yes.
And that they get to the pruning part, which is when they get a little bit older, and then we're all learning.
They're learning how to exist in a world.
That's
what it is.
Shifting and changing, and not always the easiest place to be in.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm curious at like empathy levels, because I feel like a lot of schools that I've talked to have talked a lot about like a lack of empathy, and I know that even stretches into even just teachers having a real hard time of just being empathetic and caring. Is there maybe something that you would speak to that? I don't know if you've experienced that or.
Yeah, well, I think that's always been in middle school, right? So I think that the ages of middle school really lend to more me, and not being able to see outside of themselves and how their behavior, their actions, their words can impact other people because they're really just protecting themselves.
Yeah. I don't know, are you seeing teachers like take a role in that, or is that something that they're more aware of that's like happening, or that they're like.
I would say so. I would say, that they're pointing it out, walking students more through social emotional learning and really taking the moment as a teaching moment, right? Rather than just always a punitive moment. So explaining things, giving them opportunities to have a resolution rather than just leaving things as they are.
Yeah. And then if you could tell parents anything that could help them better support their child, what would you tell them?
I think for me, it goes back to they're always watching you, right? And so from whether they're toddlers up through high school and beyond, our kids are always watching us. And so I've always said in middle school, I feel like kids start to see their parents for who they really are. And for some, that's great. And for some, that's scary. And so knowing that they're just watching you, right? So modeling, so what that means to me is modeling the behavior you want to see out of them, right? When your kids are little, you read all these parenting books and different things and articles and I always thought okay, whatever, But one thing that really stuck with me that I've continued to use is if you want your kids to say please and thank you, say please and thank you.
Yeah.
Right? And so that extends, I thought about that as they were little and teaching them how to speak, right?
Right.
But then that has extended so much, and that's really just the baseline that I always come back to. If I want my kids to be kind to other people, they need to see me be kind to other people.
Yeah.
If I want my kids to have good eating habits, they need to see me have good eating habits, right? Because they will not do what we tell them just because we tell them anymore,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But if we're modeling it and we do it together and and you discuss like why this is important, right? I just feel like modeling that behavior goes so far.
Yeah.
And then you can say like, whoa, I don't speak to you that way when I get angry. Why are you speaking to me this way?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But also giving a little bit of permission too. Like when my 16-year-old comes home from a very long day and she is tired and she is starving and I can say like, hey, I get it. I get super hangry too.
Yeah.
Why don't you take a minute?
Yeah.
Eat your food. I'll come back in 5 minutes. You know, like
Giving space
giving
is so
space.
invaluable. Yeah.
So modeling behavior, but also listening and really being present, right? And our kids choose very interesting times for that to happen.
Yes.
And we're not always in the best, I think, I'll speak for myself. I'm not always in the best state of mind when one of my kids decides that that's the time that they want to be, heard. And so it can be hard, right? But just like anything worth doing, it's hard.
Yeah.
It is hard. So giving them that time and listening and keeping that judgment quiet, right? And just asking those open-ended questions instead of saying, well, of course you shouldn't do that. Say like, wow, well, tell me, why do you think you shouldn't do that? What do you think would happen if you did that?
Yeah. I feel like this is such an age where you can begin to shift the way that you more from like the parental to a curiosity, a parent of curiosity. And I will tell you, I'm not really great at that. I've really been trying. I wasn't raised with that. And so it is really hard to like, you always like say, I'm never going to do. It's like, don't ever say you're not going to do because you probably will.
Yes.
Just be aware that you will. And then say, okay, how am I going to be a parent of curiosity rather than a parent of accusations or a parent of the do's and the don'ts? Because curiosity, then it just lends to so much more of a team, and it lends to each person playing their part in that team.
Right. And I think ownership on the kids' part, like they want to have a sense of control. They need to have a sense of control because they will be the ones in charge of their life and they need to learn how to do that.
Right.
So being able to learn how to do that under our guidance, right? And giving them that space to be heard and to be seen. There's space to have a bad day.
Yep.
Right? And space to celebrate when you do have a good day.
Yeah.
Right? And just time. Time. Kids just want our time.
Yeah.
They really do. Yeah. Like, without a phone in front of our face, without the TV on, without headphones in, they just want our time.
Yeah.
Whether that's students or our own children.
Right. Yeah. And not just at this age. They need it always.
Always.
Yeah. I am always really struck, and I don't want to be judgmental or anything, but I'm really, because we raised kids in an era where the phone was not in our faces all the time.
Yes.
Or that we needed constant entertainment all the time. You can push it back if you want to. Yeah. And then you can bring it back. Yeah. But I am really struck by, I remember the times where I was at Target and those face-to-face times were some of the best times. And the problem that it seems like we're having now is that there's something in between the face-to-face time.
Yes.
And I don't know that we understand how detrimental that is. We have not grasped that yet. I'm sure you go into any restaurant and you will see kids on iPads. And I think that is...
With headphones.
And headphones, yeah. That is...
It's the headphones that get me.
the breakdown.
Headphones are like, we don't want to hear you.
I know.
It hurts my heart.
It really does hurt my heart. And I will honestly see families that don't do that. And I will go up to them and say, keep doing what you are doing, because I promise you, you will have. And I've had people come up to us because our kids, nobody has their phone out. Nobody does. We all put them away. They know, don't even do that. And they will do the same thing when they go out with their friends. They won't have their phone, and they're just shocked at like how many people do not sit at dinner and communicate with each other. And I just don't know that we understand how big that is. So, I mean, for those listeners, again, no judgment, but I also would encourage highly anybody who has young kids to just leave them at home. Leave the iPads at home.
Bring toys.
Bring toys.
We would
bring stickers.
Legos, color books.
Yes.
We go to speak to that now. We also kind of like the should thing. So I never would, right? I didn't think that I would be part of a family that ate out as much as we do, right? Especially coming from like a Latina background, food is important to us. My mom cooked all the time. I thought I would cook at home all the time. I don't. We eat out a lot. Every year I think like I should cook at home more. And every year I don't.
Girl, I know.
For a variety of reasons, right?
It's the same thing.
So many reasons. But what I want to tell everybody is it's okay. It doesn't matter where you eat.
Yeah.
It's the time you spend together. So when we go to dinner, my son loves right, left, center. We play right, left, center.
Love that game.
Or we play Exploding Kittens.
Yes.
And we bring games and we play. And so I've given myself some grace in that it's okay that we eat out, because the time I'm spending is still very quality time, and it's not time me preparing the food, cleaning the dishes, like all of that. We're driving in a car together and still talking about or singing along, and or my son saying, "Will you play my playlist?" And I don't want to hear his music, right? But I do want to hear his music, because I want to know, what are you listening to? Who's your favorite artist right now? What's your favorite song? Like, all of those things that if you just ask, they're like, I don't know.
Right.
But when I'm hearing the playlist, I can hear like, oh, that's your favorite song. Like, ooh, this one has an E. Tell me about that. What is this about? You know? But it was the same when our kids were younger and we ate out all the time. People would stop at our table and say like, oh, your kids are so good in a restaurant. And I would take that like, I know, I'm sorry, it's because we eat out all the time. But
no, that's
but it was before iPads, before all of that. And we would color and do things. And we had so many older couples like pay for our dinners because they were just shocked at how well behaved our kids could sit in a chair and like be at a restaurant. It's
just really interesting, because when I see that, it makes me sad, and we're conditioning kids in this next generation very differently, and it always terrifies me to see the outcome. But I also think it's not too late. It's always the thing is like, we're having these conversations because it's important to understand that these little lives will someday become adults and they will go out into the world. And it's like, what can we alter and change, and how can we learn and expand and learn something different so that we can help them to become the best versions of themselves. And I think a part of that, the disconnect socially with our children.
The empathy that you were talking
about. Can really, So
you can't really see empathy through a screen.
No.
Through an email, through a text.
Exactly.
It's not there.
Exactly. So if let's say we were in a room and you've got a bunch of junior high students and you were talking to them, what's some things that you would tell them? What do you want them to know?
I would first tell them that they are seen, right? And I would ask them to identify one adult in their life and or on campus that they feel they connect with, that they feel they have their back, that they think that they could go talk to. And I would encourage them to tell that adult. So that they know, like, you're my one. you're the one that I feel like, and maybe some have like 10 and 15, right? And maybe some just have one, and it's not about how many. It's about the quality of that relationship. And it really does just take one caring adult to make a difference for a child. And whether that's somebody at home, at school, at church, on their club team, on whatever it is, it takes that one person. And so I would really encourage students to identify who is that person, for them to really think about it, right?
A safe person.
That safe person, and to tell them so that they can share that with them. Yeah. I would also tell them that, adolescence doesn't last forever. It feels like it does. It feels like we'll never, become an adult. All these things that we wish for. I just wish I was 18. I just wish I was 21. Like, we start wishing away those years instead of really embracing them and understanding that this is the only time you're going to be 13. This is the only time you're going to be 14.
So true. Yeah.
But that's just like hindsight, right? I mean, and we still do it now. And so I would try to impart that knowledge on them to just embrace this moment and know that it's not going to last forever, that you will grow. The hard things will become things that you faintly remember when you're an adult. And they will be things that made you who you are, things that you overcame. And the fun, great things will also be what made you an adult, and be fond memories that you can look back on and remember and help guide you through the rest of your life, because adolescence is not very long.
Moment.
It's a moment.
We always tell our kids, like, you're going to be this age. What are you going to do? You're going to be there no matter what. What are you going to do along the way? Like, I wish that, like, we could help kids shift their thinking from, like, I can't wait until I'm, to you're going to be. What are you going to do? And, like, along the way.
Until I'm that. Or to prepare myself for that. Or to be ready.
Like, I wish somebody would have told me that a long time ago. Wish somebody would have been like, okay, you're gonna be 40 someday. What are you gonna do with the 10 years ahead of you? Or whatever. I don't want to even say the next stage of life. No, but it's coming. Every year comes.
Every year. And every day. Yeah.
So, what are you looking forward to in this next kind of stage of life? You're at the very beginning of the school year, kind of, or approaching maybe middle of the school year. What are you looking forward to learning this year, growing? Which ways, what are you doing maybe that is lending to that?
Yeah, I'm on 2 campuses this year, so I'm looking forward to just meshing within both, right? And being able to find each school's culture and being able to add to that in a positive way. I want to just stay relevant, right? Stay in the know, be a person that is willing to grow and to model the behavior that we want our kids to have and the other adults on campus. So really just being able to tackle challenges and work through failures, right? Process and come out better on the other side, and just have it be a year of continued learning, continued growth. Moving through.
Yeah, I love that. I would love to have you back and talk about social emotional learning.
Yes.
I think that would be like, as soon as you like said that, I was like, oh yeah, we need to do a part 2 here.
Yes, that would be great.
And just like, because even just the part of what mindfulness practices can do and how they can hold hands together and really guide. So thank you so much. I just loved sitting down with you and talking. It's been just a pleasure. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I have enjoyed our conversation so much, as I always do.
I know. Always. Even the little 10 minutes we get here and there.
Yes.
It's always great. Thanks so much, Lori. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Be sure to follow livingpurposed.podcast on Instagram for more in-depth conversation and opportunities to get your questions answered and to be encouraged along this path to learning and living out our divine purpose. Let's live purposed together.